few minutes. Someone just make sure you can tell me you can hear me. Just maybe. We unmuted now?
Yeah, we're unmuted.
Hi, everybody. This is Karen Werner from the Customer Success Department at PAR. Super excited for you all to join us today for today's 4.1 feature webinar. I believe we're going through 4.1F. We will be starting in just a few minutes. Just want to give a couple more minutes for folks to join, and then we will go through kind of rules of engagement and housekeeping. And we'll get started shortly. Thanks. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just some general housekeeping information to get us started. All our attendees will be in listen-only mode. We're muting you all just for sound quality as we are recording this webinar so that you will have access to this later. We will send out the recording to each attendee following the webinar. If you should have questions during the webinar, please use the question panel to submit those questions. We will be reviewing those during the webinar, and we will try to get to as many questions as we can. If we don't answer your question, we will do our very best to follow up with you via email to answer it. There will be contact information, so you can reach out to us if you have additional questions after the webinar. So appreciate your patience and your cooperation with the Q&A portion of the webinar. Today, our presenters will be Jose Sermeno, our Software Release Manager. As well, we have Christine Fuchs, our Senior Payments Product Manager, and also John Che, our Software Integration Product Manager. So I am now going to turn this over to Jose.
All right, thank you, Karen. We're going to go ahead and get started here looking at today's agenda for the presentation. This is the 4.1F New Features Overview, and I've broken out the categories of features into 4 specific areas: ordering enhancements, operations enhancements, new integrations, and then the kitchen enhancements. Now, we have quite a few more enhancements and bug fixes that we're done with this release and we're going to be covering in today's webinar, but I did want to showcase some of the highlighted features that we found are going to be put into production right away by our customers and things that we just found pretty interesting to have. But you can review the 4.1F release notes that are available on our site to see the entirety of all of the both bug fixes and new enhancements that are included with this release. And we'll make sure to include those, as well as the 4.1F New Features Guide, which is the documentation associated with all of these features in our follow-up correspondence with this presentation. So with that, ordering enhancements. These are the type of enhancements that are really going to be done by the staff at the restaurant, where you're going to be using some of these new features. And a lot of these are either visual or kind of just operational changes in the flow of how you order or how it looks, or just some new capabilities in general. We now have quick substitutions for modifiers, as well as default mod codes for modifiers. Voided items appear italicized. This is a big one here. Order screen can be changed by time of day. weekday or register. So you can have different menus display based on what you're offering at any given time. New promotion functions where promotion can apply a new total price. Quantities on modifiers. I know this was something that was asked about quite a bit over the past year or so. And then a visual indication change about limiting what you can select on the order pane directly, an individual item or multiple items at once. So default modifiers and quick substitution of modifiers. So quick substitution is a function that allows you to change a modifier without having to deselect the existing modifier that's automatically included with the item. And as those of you that are familiar with our conversational ordering feature, we overlay the green check marks on top of the modifier when it's default included for that item, or if you're using the old method of combos, it would be the combo components. But now we make it so you don't have to actually deselect that. You can specify what you want a quick substitution to be, and it'll automatically deselect the initial input modifier and then put in the quick substitution one. And the default modifier code you can see in this configuration dialog as well as selected, so you can have something like add automatically included, and that just saves a little bit of time by not having to then deselect, click add, and then click the new modifier. Now that can all be done with the selection of the new modifier by itself. So for speed of service purposes, for minimizing button touches, that's really where this comes into play. And this is one of the first things we're looking at. This one's pretty straightforward. Voided items appear as italicized. This is a new just feature of the software. There's nothing that you need to do to actually set this up. Now, when you delete an item, or excuse me, when you void an item, it will be italicized in red and show a $0 price. In the past, it wouldn't have any visual indication that is different, and it is going to be a little bit easier to understand now. So, looking at that promotion feature, this is the configuration dialog within Settings Editor to edit a new promotion, and the reduction type change that you'll now see when setting up promotions is this new total price option. It's what we consider just more price oriented, where in the past when we would do like roll up pricing, or there was a few different methods that you could use to get this promotion. But this is a really simple way where if you just have like a 2 for $5 deal or something like that, it requires a little bit less configuration because you can just do it on the qualifiers as in the promotion without having to do any of that roll up or special pricing configurations where you're cutting prices in half and things like that. But this is only able to be used when you're using more than one item as a qualifier, though. That's one of the requirements for this specific feature. But again, it's configured right in the promotion dialog like you would all of the other promotion settings. This is just a new option for reduction type. This is that big one that I talked about, where the order screen can be changed by time of day, the day, or the register. Primarily used when we see brands that have separate offerings for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can now have the register automatically display a specific set of offerings, a specific set of screens, and that can be per register or per job. So whether you're doing something like a drive-through window, just a pay register, this allows for a bunch more flexibility with how you configure your registers and what you actually have to do, because in the past there would be a lot of navigation and menu-specific flows that you had to build in to be able to get to those. Now can be all automatic for you. And this has been, I think, a feature request that's been probably at least 1.5 years long standing from some of our larger customers. So something that should make menu management a lot simpler going forward. Next, looking at operations enhancements. These are things that we consider some functional differences or changes in the software, new reports, new abilities that you have from within, and from within the software, and just new capabilities in general, not so much just ordering behavior. In this case, we have the new taxes by location report, as well as speed of service reports, which can be done from the register. The big one, which especially for some of our quick serve, coffee shop, ice cream, things that are typically very speed of service oriented, we now have tip and signature capture on a touchscreen or a tablet. And so that's something that's been a long-standing request, and we're very happy to offer, so we'll show you that. The new shift hours overtime rule is just another method of calculating overtime when a shift spans from one day into the next. The new total no sales added to the sales summary report is just another way of managing theft or identifying instances where there was an order that was just voided out and just made a no sale altogether. We now support tender retail gift cards, and a new method of when you're actually selecting to pay with an external payment device, there can be a prompt for the employee to specify what type of tender they're using, whether it be gift card, debit, credit card, what have you. And we'll look at those. First, the tip and signature on the touchscreen display or tablet. This is supported for credit and gift cards today. And it can be done on either the touchscreen display, but what we would call the customer display that's facing the customer, that you can have, cycled graphics go through, where as well as the order summary, so someone can see their total, the tax, and what they're doing. But the touchscreen is going to be used as the interface for actually selecting the tip amount, and those are pre-configured amounts that you can set up, as well as signing on signing the receipts. You don't actually have to have, hand them a pen. They can do all of this on the touchscreen display. And if you're using an individual tablet, when you either rotate or flip the tablet around, the software is intelligent enough to know that it should switch to the tip and signature option, and the orientation will always be correct depending on what type of hardware you're using. It will present itself to the customer appropriately. So this is something that is supported for both the customer display as well as the tablet. And a question about the last one that I think is relevant. For the no sales, does it recognize when OPAR's drivers see that a drawer is open or not already? Does it track both through hardware and software? No, we're only tracking the software sales that were captured by the accumulation of the business details. We're not tracking the OPA's drivers to see how many times the cash drawer, for example, opened in this situation. It's the sale amount and the order being closed with no sales associated with it, with no items associated with it. Great question, though. I was not expecting a question like that, but that's a good one because it goes into the details of what the hardware is actually able to capture just the same. We got another one that was, does the time reset after midnight? Let me jump back a couple. That's for the time of day, weekday, and register. The start time and is when this goes in. So it doesn't have an end time. It should reset up at end of day. So in the instance of where you want the opening shift to have a breakfast menu, for example, you should have the opening start time, lunch start time, and then dinner start time. There is no specific end time that you configure. It's all based on start time. Let me see. Is there a grand total on the tip screen? The tip screen will show, let me go back to that, when we're actually showing this is the tip and signature. The grand total, depending on what you actually have set up on the customer display, will show everything that's on the receipt. There's very specific PCI requirements like order number and other details that are required on the receipt. So everything will show up on the final receipt as expected. And another question, will the tablet signature and tip work with standard Brink processing? Yes. This is not something that, when we talk about processor-specific support for things like gift cards, credit cards, and debit. Obviously, those are going to be possibly unique depending on what the processor supports directly. But what the processor supports is what the sign-on screen functionality should support as well. And all right. Go to the next one. Talking about the new shift hours overtime rule, I did mention that this is just another way of calculating overtime, and it's used when you have a shift that spans over one single calendar date. We do have the option for supporting 24-hour operations with Brink, and in this instance where maybe somebody's working over midnight and coffee shop, what have you, we now support calculating overtime at the shift level, not just the day, week, or hours. And the details around this is the factor is the pay rate multiplier and the hours in which in a day is considered overtime. Looking at the next one, speed of service reports from the register, and that is looking at this in full size. That's not exactly a great screenshot of the speed of service report that we're seeing on the bottom right of the screen, but you configure the report button behavior. When you select the report for that behavior, you'll see speed of service by hour. This just gives you the average time for each order in between the hours of your prescribed day. In this case, it's 11, 12, and 2 that we see there, as well as the average accumulated for all hours captured in that day. And you'll see here it's based on kitchen queue as well, drive-through, expo is the examples we're using here, but it'll be across all queues. And this is a report that can be run from the register and then printed out, typically on the receipt printer, but we find that most of the time managers or shift leaders or what have you are the ones who are accessing this and just viewing this information, not necessarily printing these out, but it is a capability. Next one. We talked about how we have the ability to configure the payment device button to prompt for a specific tender type. Only the tender types that are enabled will show here. And in this example, we've got credit card, debit card, and then manual credit card, but gift card is the other type that is supported. If it's not enabled as something that can be selected in this prompt, it will not be shown. So pretty straightforward there, but this is just some different functional behavior for how you can accept the payment in the ordering workflow. And now punch integration. Give me 1 second. Before I move on to punch, we've got a great question here. If you have only one payment selected, will you still have to press that payment type? If the behavior is to prompt for a payment, yes. It would only show the one tender that you had available there, even if you had only selected that. If not, if you don't want that to be the default behavior, you should not use the prompt for payment type function. It should just be just to select that tender directly. But with that, I'm going to now turn the presentation over to John, who is muted. So I'm gonna try and unmute John so he can talk to our punch integration, something that's we've been working on for a while. Punch is growing in the marketplace, and we're seeing a lot of requests for it, so we're real happy to be able to include this with this release. John, are you there?
Yeah, I am, Jose.
Great. Go ahead.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, as Jose was saying, the Punch loyalty integration was a robust integration with a strategic loyalty partner. And yeah, as you can see there on the slide, we got the overall POS workflows, creating a new guest, looking up a guest by phone, email, or loyalty card. You could also, when you look up that guest, you return the points balance and available rewards. And obviously, we have the redemption validation and settlement that Punch takes care of. I guess what's applicable for the folks on the phone are the types of redemption that we have with this loyalty integration. So basically we have points-based discounts, points-based rewards, and redemption code. So points-based discounts, basically that's the $10 discount after gathering 250 points. So that's like $1 or percentage discount applied after you gain a certain number of points after you make a certain number of purchases. And the same thing with points-based rewards. So I guess the example there is I get a free ice cream cone if the customer has gathered 250 points. So again, we could do discounts or rewards based on points. And then the final type of redemption was the redemption code. So this would be a discount or a reward that you get after the end user presents a valid redemption code at the point of sale. So you get a free ice cream cone, or you get $5 off after presenting that validation redemption code at the POS. And that's basically the main tenets of the Punch loyalty integration.
Fantastic. Thank you. The first comment we got about the Punch is the typo that I put in the slide for the points-based discount, so we want to make sure we all acknowledge that. The percentage is still wrong, but that is the case there. And there's a question about how you can actually use the Punch loyalty, and because that is an app-driven loyalty, it's really mobile-centric, the integration from the Punch side. Can you talk about to the integration with the scanner that we have?
That right now, I mean, we do. I know that Punch has some features with some QR codes that we have not developed to as to yet. So that could be a future capability, but I can take that back to our team to see what we can do with our scanners today. Okay. I can't answer that right now. I know that QR codes is on the horizon though that's a Punch capability, but we just haven't developed that yet.
Fantastic.
So
Thank you very much.
I'll have to get back to you for that one.
Okay. No, that's great. Thank you for that. All right. Any other questions with Punch coming in? Please feel free to use the questions panel to do so. And while we're moving forward with that, I am going to pull up the ParPay slide and introduce Christine Fuchs. Christine, you there?
I am here.
Great. All right, over to you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm excited today to talk to you about ParPay. It's our new SaaS-based EMV solution. It takes payment out of scope, reducing your PCI costs, and it also gives you freedom of choice in selecting your processors and your devices, while at the same time giving you a robust feature-rich offering. I'm going to take you through some of those features now during this presentation. On the right side of your screen, you'll see that there's a list of processors that we support for credit processing, as well as gift processors, and a number of devices that we support currently as well on the right side of the screen. And on the left side of the screen, I have a list of just some of the key features of ParPay. The first being point-to-point encryption, which comes with the solution regardless of which hardware device you select. And the solution also includes tokenization at no additional cost. There are no per transaction fees for tokenization. Each of the devices also include quick chip, which means we can read an EMV card in 2 to 3 seconds. Also, the total authorization process takes 5 to 6 seconds to read a card, go out, obtain authorization, and provide you with the approval number. We also have EMV NFC, as well as Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Samsung included in the offering. Store and forward is a standard feature, and store and forward is something that kicks in automatically when the devices are offline from the outside world with no interruption to the business. We also have tip support. We've got 4 different options for tip support. One is to not prompt for tipping at all on the device. The other is to display an open tip amount that can be filled in by the consumer, or we can display percentage choices or dollar amount choices on the device for the customer to select from on the device. We also support gift card authorization through the payment device. So you can authorize your credit cards and your gift cards directly through the payment device. And the solution includes a store place portal where you can see real-time reporting of transactions happening in your store. The reporting comes with filters and favorites, and you can also export data and also schedule reports to be delivered on a scheduled basis and emailed to recipients. And we also have settlement reporting in the portal as well. So you can see your settlement data, again, across any date range. There's lots of filtering. There's also reports that can be scheduled and emailed as well for settlement data. The portal also includes a virtual terminal, so you can manage chargebacks or customer discrepancies or complaints through the portal itself from a corporate location. It allows you to enter sales, refunds, and voids through the portal. And the portal also includes device and state management. That lets you see what devices are out in the field, how many are in each store, what their serial number is, and also what features are enabled on the device itself. You can also see if the device is powered on or off, and if it should be powered off, you can power it on remotely from the portal. Also with ParPay, you have several different options for network segmentation in your stores. You can use a splitter cable with your device and share your network connection with your POS, or you can have a direct run for each device and run on the same network as the POS, or you can actually have your devices on a separate VLAN from your POS for maximum security. And then depending on which devices you select, you can also run digital marketing on your devices. We can display static ads, and we can run videos on certain devices. Jose, you can move to the next slide.
Okay.
So in addition to all these great features, we made the solution easy to configure. There's no extra software needed on the POS terminals. All you need is Brink 4.1F or higher. And then you need to configure 3 different screens in Settings Editor. The total setup takes about 15 minutes. And devices are plug and play when they arrive at the store. And the entire solution is supported by the PAR infrastructure, from device selection to injection to staging to delivery and installation. And all support is done through the PAR help desk. And PAR is committed to continually improving this offering. So as a for instance, for the near future, we're working on integrating to Apple VAS. We're adding even more gift card processors going forward. We're adding Gift ePay and Synergy Gift. And we're also planning to offer wireless tableside EMV. And as manufacturers come out with new devices like Verifone and Ingenico, who are both coming out with new devices, we will be adding them to the offering as well. To move to the next slide, Jose. And if you're interested in ParPay, you can reach out to customer success at the email address noted on the slide, and we can arrange a more detailed presentation for you and get you set up with a ParPay evaluation lab and some test cards so you can try the solution out for yourself in your lab. And now we can open up to any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. A couple of questions did come in. Obviously, for follow-up evaluation, as well as anything pricing specific, please feel free to contact success@partech.com so we can get that conversation going with you as a brand directly. But some specific questions, Christine, that you may be able to answer. Can multiple merchant IDs, and this is with that store place portal, can multiple merchant IDs be managed from a single kind of account in that sense, a single login? Yes.
Yes. So with a single log, depending on who you are in the organization, what role you have, you can have visibility to all stores or only select stores. I hope that answered the question.
No, that's exactly answered. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure, so thank you. And does ParPay support manual credit card entry as well?
Yes, yes, it does. On all of our devices, we do have a method for entering a credit card manually, and that is up to each merchant to decide whether or not they would like to train their staff on that feature or not, but it is there.
Great. I know we've seen in the past that store and forward as a function can be a device-specific ability, and the amount of transactions that can be stored on the device may differ depending on the device type and model. But can you just speak to, just for a little bit here, about store and forward and what that actually is? Because this is a new offering that we have with ParPay, and I just want to make sure that that's understood.
Sure. So store and forward automatically comes with the solution, and it does automatically kick in if the device should be, come offline with the outside world. What happens is approval code, the cashier and the consumer will not see a difference in the behavior. Everything looks the same as normal. The only visible difference is approval codes have a prefix on them that indicates that they're offline approvals. And when connectivity is restored, the transactions will go up to the ParPay host for settlement. Devices do have limitations. They have buffers. And so if a device should be getting close to its buffer, it will display a message that is visible. And so it will warn you that it's getting close to its maximum capacity. Typically, a device holds 300 to 500 transactions, depending on the device. And we also have a method for outages that may run more than one day. So let's say you're in a store and your network's not going to be repaired for several days, and you're going to be hitting the buffer on a daily basis. There is a way for you to take the device to another location that has an internet connection and connect to the ParPay host and upload those transactions and reset the device back to 0 so it can start a new day back in its home store.
All right. Another question about tips and tip configuration with ParPay. Is there any specific limitations around that, or any requirements around like a $25 threshold, or the option to not include tipping at all? Can you just speak to how tips are configured?
Yeah, so there's an option to not prompt for tips at all. And there's another option to prompt for an open tip amount, so the customer can key in whatever they want. And then there's two other options. One is to display percentages. One is to display dollar amounts. Tipping is either on or off. So regardless of which tip feature you pick, if you turn on, let's say, the display percentage amounts across the screen, it's going to be on for every transaction. You can't restrict it to when it appears and when it doesn't appear.
And so somebody brings up a great question here that I wanted to highlight, and it was really a point that they were trying to make. Brink already supports the semi-integrated method of payments using the external payment device with EMV, taking the payment out of scope for the POS. Since we already do that now with a few other middlewares, what would you say the main primary advantages with someone going to ParPay explicitly would be?
So it's the ability to select different processors and different devices, so you have the freedom to move. You're not tied into anyone specifically. It's also PADSS certified against PADSS version 3.2, which is the latest payment security standard. And all the devices come with point-to-point encryption and tokenization at no additional fee, as well as quick chip for fast processing.
Yeah, I know that quick chip is a differentiator that not all providers offer. The multiple processor support that we have, and I think really it's something that I see as a differentiator here is really the kind of the one-stop shop aspect that you get with ParPay, your POS, our support team is going to be supporting ParPay, so you would call essentially you have one number to call to manage all of your interactions with Par, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and you can order your devices through us. We stage them. We set up your portal for you. We do all of that administrative work for you. That's all included in your SaaS-based pricing. And then also something I wanted to mention about devices that I didn't mention earlier that some folks on the phone might find helpful is that you can mix and match devices within a store. So you may have like a Verifone MX915, which is the video-capable device on your counter, but if you have a drive-through, you could have a simpler, less expensive device, which is pretty cool.
Great. Yeah, and I know a lot of people use the multimedia aspect of some of the larger screen payment devices as alternatives to customer-facing displays for marketing purposes. I know cost-wise they can often be comparable, and it's typical to see one or the other in place, but both can be used simultaneously. All right. So moving on from ParPay, and if you guys have any more questions, the audience, please feel free to follow up. We have a couple of questions asking about that contact information, so I'm going to put that up again. It is success@partech.com, and that would be who you follow up for evaluations. Oh, but this is a really good one, Christine, and I think you might know the answer to this one. If a brand switches their processor, do we have to send the devices back for re-injection, or can that be handled remotely?
It can be done remotely.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and that's why I wanted something to highlight that. Typically, if you're switching processors and hardwares like that, it would be in the past something that you had to work with two separate entities. But again, that's one of the advantages of ParPay directly is that it's all under the Par roof that we can handle that and do it remotely. Great. Okay, so moving on to the last section before we get on to our open Q&A, the Brink kitchen enhancements. With 4.1F, we have two really big features here and then some just visual indications that go along with it. We can now rush and reprioritize orders in the kitchen. This is something, whether it be because a customer's order has to be remade, they're just unhappy and you just want to put them to the front of the line, whatever the reasoning may be, we can now rush those in and push them to the front of the KDS display. We now support kitchen load balancing, and these are overrides that are configured typically based on time of day, something like a happy hour, where you may want how items get routed to the kitchen to be done differently during this specified time frame. We also see it in late night operations where maybe you have two make lines that get then shut down into one after 9 p.m. and you want the overrides to kick in to push everything down into multiple displays. We also display the ticket time, the average ticket time on the ticket time on the KDS. Modified items now can display with a special indicator on displays and printout and kitchen chits, the prints. And then recalled orders have a different display color. Looking at load balancing, this is set up at the kitchen queue level. You create the override for the specified time that you want the balancing to occur to alternate and between kitchen displays. And you'll notice down here, we include the name of the override in the kitchen display footer directly so you can understand exactly what is happening and in what method of override you're actually in at any given time just by looking at the KDS. This is that average ticket time on the display. It is a configuration option that you can specify, and in this instance, the average ticket time shown here is 16 seconds, just for our specific example, but this is set on the kitchen display setting directly within Settings Editor. This is where you configure the new button behavior that does that rush order, where you push the active order that you have in the POS at any given time. You can reprioritize that. You can make this a permission required button as well. But this allows you to go in and reprioritize the kitchen orders by injecting an order into the front of the line, not at the end. With that covers the majority of what we wanted to show. I did mention that there's more features, and all of the bug fixes that were included in 4.1F are available in the 4.1F release notes. And for you to get access to 4.1F, we're recommending you sign up for our Early Experience program. Early Experience is what we have in place to give our customers early access to the next production version of the software that is going to be distributed. And if you've not heard about this, I know we've done some marketing, and customer success has been sending out some email blasts over the past couple of months. But all you have to do is contact either your sales account manager, your sales rep, your customer success advisor, or that success@partech.com email address, and we can get you set up with access to our Early Experience environment, which has been at 4.1F now for, I think, 2 weeks, at least a week and a half, 2 weeks. But that access is dependent on you having a dedicated hardware lab that can connect to the 4.1F server and the Early Experience stack. We do ask that you have taken the ParU self-installation course, because there's no support offered for Early Experience. What we do is just ask that you do submit bugs in the normal manner to support. But because it is Early Experience, it is an environment that it will be constantly be updated as the development continues for that version. There's an agreement that has to get signed, and so definitely follow up with success@partech.com to get access to the Early Experience server. You can get a preview of some of the upcoming features that are going to be available and verify that the bug fixes that you may have submitted have been addressed. One more thing before we go to the live Q&A at the end of this session. We will be doing 2 more sessions in July and in August, where for the people that are going to be viewing this recording at a later date, we did want to just open up the phone line, so to speak, to give people the ability to ask questions. This is going to be really great if from now until July you get access to Early Experience, you get some questions, you can definitely send them to us, but we are really working on trying to be more out there, more transparent with what is happening and our processes. And as you heard with Christine and John joining us from the product team today, trying to get some more voices in the conversation, get you familiar with more people involved in what we're doing, and our live Q&A webinars are directed at trying to make that happen. So with that, I'm going to go look, see if there's any specific questions that we've not gotten to. So here, there's a couple of really long questions. Christine?
Yeah.
There's a great one here for the devices. When we talk about payment devices, is it something that the devices themselves, are they leased? Are they purchased? Are there multiple options around that? What do you think?
They are purchased. And if someone's interested in leasing, we haven't done that before, but you know, through the PAR leasing program, I'm sure we could work something out.
All right, thank you. And the quick chip technology, that's something that a few different questions came around because everybody's looking how to minimize that. Can you just speak to quick chip again and some of the differences that we see, and if that is a device-specific feature or a process-specific feature, a processor-specific feature?
So it's a device-specific feature with the ParPay solution, and it reads a chip in 2 to 3 seconds, which is as fast as a swipe. If you're out shopping and you use a device that doesn't have quick chip, you'll see it can take 6 to 9 seconds, sometimes longer, to read a chip. So we're reading it in 2 to 3 seconds with the technology that's built into our solution on the devices we offer.
Great. And one more, because I expected lots of ParPay questions. We talked about the store place portal, and that can be your interface for managing things like chargebacks for the restaurant. Can you adjust tips through that portal as well?
No, but you could adjust an overall transaction if you needed to. So you could add to a transaction.
Got it. And the turnaround times that we have in mind for that device injection, just to give, because I know for different merchant providers today, it can be very different depending on who you're working with. Just, you know, in your experience going through the ParPay deployment process, any issues with turnaround time to getting devices and getting them injected and things like that?
Yeah, great question. Usually it's 2 to 3 weeks. Typically it's 2 weeks or less. And if it's a larger deployment, it might take a little longer, or if we have to get equipment in stock, you know, that's on order. But normally it's 2 weeks or less. We like to say it's 2 to 3 weeks just for safe planning.
Got it. Thank you. All right. With that, I want to offer everyone again the opportunity to contact success@partech.com for any additional questions that may come up. We do have our additional scheduled live Q&A webinars for July and August. We've got a few questions about when is 4.1F going to be released out into the production wild. And the time frame for that is still tentative, but it is the July-August time frame is what we're looking for, starting to get this deployed out to our servers. But the more testing and experience that you have with it early can only help to get you more familiar and help you identify issues sooner than later. So definitely please sign up for our early experience program and contact us again with any questions. I want to take the time to thank you for joining us in today's presentation. You will receive a follow-up email with a link to this recording, as well as the new features document that covers what we looked at today in slide format and much more. So thanks very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.